Welcome to the Tipsy Tennis Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Borak, and today I have a very special guest. I would consider him a great and a lot of influence on the future generation with his tennis coaching and really raising top athletes in Austria. I have a huge pleasure to bring on the podcast, Wolfgang Thiem. Welcome to the podcast. This is the Tipsy Tennis Podcast, so normally there's a little bit of drinking and some fun around it. But today, in honor of that, I'm drinking a Red Bull because I know Dominic, he's sponsored by them. And even when I was in Kreiskirchen, they were telling me they had a fridge for free Red Bull. So I definitely had a few of those when I was over there. So thanks again for taking the time to speak with me. Welcome to the podcast, Wolfgang.
Hello, nice to meet you, Adam.
So the way I like to start off, I like to ask my guests, how did you get started playing tennis?
Myself, it's already very, very long ago. I mean, I'm already 50 years old and started when I was around, I would say 6 or 7 years old. I mean, in these times, you had the option to play football or tennis, not so many other sports like today. And I mean, we played both. We played football and tennis. And in winter, of course, I mean, from Austria, we had to ski. This was mandatory to go for skiing in the winter. And in the summertime, we were playing football and tennis. And with 6, 7 years, I started in the small club in my hometown.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I was actually in Austria, I went skiing for a few days to Schladming.
Nice. The night race is there.
Yeah, and one thing I have to tell you, so I'm in the US and I have family who lives in Colorado, and I would always go skiing out there in Colorado, which I thought it was pretty good. It's much better than like on the East Coast. And I'm like, okay, I'm ready. Man, the slopes that are in Austria just completely like knocked me out. I couldn't even last the whole 3 days that I was supposed to be there. I only went for 2.
No, I mean, we have amazing areas for skiing in Austria. I would say 6, 7, 8 really nice areas.
Mm-hmm.
And for us Austrians, I mean, we go skiing in the winter. But I have to say, myself, I mean, last 2, 3 years, I was barely skiing because with traveling and with working and also with this situation with Corona, the last 2, 3 years, it changed a little bit. But in general, if there is a nice weather and if there is good snow, we always try to ski a little bit.
Mm-hmm. So when you grew up, so you started playing tennis from a very early age. Were you a competitive junior? Were you playing internationally? And I know, and then also kind of follow-up question with that is, did you play with Thomas Muster, at the time?
Thomas Muster is older than me, so I didn't play. But I was playing on the national level, but I never playing international because I didn't have these possibilities because I mean there were some small centers, but it was not possible to go to these high quality centers. So I was practicing, as I said in the beginning, in my hometown with some a private coach. But I always enjoyed it. I always liked it. So I played national, I played junior tournaments, and I was also a little bit ski racing. Young, and I was visiting a school, a special school for sport. So I was always very, very connected to sport, to football, to tennis, to skiing, to basketball. So for me, it was a quite nice time because we always moved around. And tennis was in the end my passion, and that was the sport which I liked the most. Then somehow after school, I started to work as a coach because with 20, 21 years, Dominic was already born. We were very young parents. And then I immediately stepped from playing tournaments to coaching.
So, you bring up Thiem and young parents and switching over to coaching. So you started off coaching Dominic?
Yes, I mean Dominic was when Dominic was born, we were very young, and my wife and me. My wife is also in the tennis business. She was in the tennis business, and we were on court, and Dominic also always came with us. I would say he had no other possibility because the grandparents, they were also working, and so he came with us. And I would say from the first day on, he enjoyed the time on the court, and whenever you give him a ball, he was happy. Doesn't matter football or tennis ball. You gave him a ball, and he was quiet, and he was super happy. And I would say with 3 years, he started already playing with us. And then we had some tennis camps also in Vienna in the summer times. He came with us. So, the thing is, everything didn't happen on purpose. It happened because we had no other possibility. Therefore, he came with us. And then everything developed very slowly.
Yeah, that's actually pretty similar to how I started playing tennis. My parents were not tennis players. I have an older brother who's about 4 years older, and my parents started signing him up for tennis lessons. And because my grandparents, they didn't live in the U.S., so they weren't able to do that, and then we couldn't really afford a nanny or babysitter. So I was from very young age, 3-4 years old, I was on the tennis court without no other options, and then slowly, without really much idea of what we were getting ourselves into, we jumped into it. So it sounds like Dominic, he was very passionate from the very beginning, not only for tennis but also for soccer, for football. I know he's an amazing football player. I've seen plenty of videos of him kicking the ball around. At what point did it become less of a hobby, and more of more goal setting and trying to progress through juniors?
This is a I would say difficult question, because Dominic had so much passion for this sport, and he realized very late that it's not a hobby, or it's not a game anymore. It comes to a job. I would say this was later. This was with probably 1920, and he was fighting with this situation because making money, having to learning to deal with the media, giving interviews, stuff like this. He had to fight with this, because in the beginning it was not on his. He didn't expect this, because from the early age, from the beginning, he always played tennis because he loved the game. He liked the game. Doesn't matter if this was at under 10, under 12, under 14 national, later on under 18 juniors, when he was already traveling around playing the slams, because he played more or less all junior slams 2 times. Still at this time, he enjoyed the time so much there, because there were 2 other Austrians. They were friends of him, and time I was traveling with him most of the time, and I was very close by, and I have to say, for him, I think this was a super quality time, and he enjoyed this time beside tennis. Of course, as soon as he stepped on court, he wanted to win, and he wanted to give everything on court, but he also enjoyed the time off court. And I think this is some very important point. What nowadays sometimes happened, that the parents, coaches, whatever, they are forcing the kids too early to become too professional. This doesn't mean that Dominic was always professional on court already when he was 11 or 12, because he was an unbelievable fighter, and as we said, a super passion for the sport. But beside, he enjoyed it. And beside, he was, let's say, a kid. But nowadays, the kids, they play tennis, and beside, they already have social media and this and that. So they have not the time to enjoy their time as a kid or as a junior.
Yeah.
When you know what I mean. And this costs you a lot of energy. And I have the opinion that every human being has a certain amount of energy. And if you blew out the energy in early ages, then you miss it somehow later. Probably really when it's really getting interesting, when you come on the tour. Because, I mean, if you are under 14, under 16, under 18, the number 1, the number 10, or the number 100 doesn't affect anything. Of course, you have to show that you have talent, that you have the qualities to probably compete on the tour level, but they are focused too much on the rankings and not on the development, and also not on off-court situations, because kids, juniors, they have also to enjoy the off-court situation.
Mm-hmm. So that's actually what I wanted to get into. My next question is like, how much was it of you pushing Dominic versus Dominic pushing himself?
I would say Dominic was pushing tennis-wise 100% by himself, because he always liked it. He never asked how long I have to practice. Doesn't matter if he was practicing 1 hour or 4 hours. He did it because he loved it, not because he had to do it, because he loved it. And I never saw a kid again which was practicing, for example, 4 hours and then taking the racket and then playing with the ball against the wall, or taking football and making some skills, as you said before. So he was passionate, or his passion for every ball sport. And so for this, it was easy in this period. The challenge was probably a bit later, as I said in the beginning or before, when he realized that okay, now it's also job, and there are certain parts of the job which probably I don't like that much, but I have to do it because they are part of the job. So for this, you had to push him a little bit to do it. But this took also probably 3, 4, 5 years, and then he was experienced enough, and nowadays, I mean, he knows what to do. Everything is routine, I would say.
Mm-hmm. So you also have another son, Moritz, who's a bit younger. We see like a few times, two siblings trying to play. I mean, Venus Serena is, I think, the most obvious one, but I know like Novak has a younger brother. Tsitsipas has a younger brother. Even Zverev, Misha, and Sasha. And from what I saw, he also tried to play professional. Is he still playing? Is he playing professionally, or is he trying to, or?
No, he stopped in 2020. But for me, it was always important from the beginning on, from the early age of my kids, that they have to do, or they had to do something which or how they can spend their time after school. Because for me, I was always scared when they become 17 or 18, they come to the puberty, and they start going out, and they start enjoying the social life. And for me, I never wanted to sit at home and be scared that they are driving around, drinking alcohol, whatever. And with sport, can get 100% sure that they come on a completely other track. Doesn't matter how good they become. I mean, you have now Dominic, he's on the top level. And Moritz, I mean, he was also a good player. He had 3 ATP points. He was number 14, 15 in Austria. But even if you're a little bit worse than this level, you can go on the college. And you have also passion for this sport, and you have a level on this at this sport with how you can which you can put in parts of your life, and therefore you go in a more sporty direction, and you get more self-confidence. Your friends, your surrounding is more sporty, and this was for me very important from the beginning on. And of course, I mean, if you have 2 sons, and the older one is so good, and the younger one probably not that good, it's always a little bit difficult. But now I have to say they have an unbelievable relation. They are best friends. And Moritz is also working now for Dominic. He's making everything. He's organizing the off-court things. He's kind of managing everything from him. And as a parent, this is super nice when you see that your kids have such a good relation.
Mm-hmm. So my brother and I, we didn't have the best tennis relationship growing up, unfortunately. And that's because we were 4 years apart. So there's like enough age gap that, he's obviously going to be better, at least like when we're juniors. But we started hitting when I was like 13, 14 years old, maybe a little older, maybe 15, 16. That's when I hit like my peak in tennis, and there was a lot of rivalry between us. And it's for me, it's a little bit disappointing that like we couldn't be closer and like really try to push each other, where we kind of took a little bit different approach of like, I want to be better than you. No, I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you. So it's really nice to hear that like they have a very, strong relationship with that. What's the age difference between them?
It's 6 years. I mean, they didn't spend so much time in early ages, because when Moritz was 6 years, Dominic already started to travel with 12, 13 years. And then when Moritz was 10, 12 years, Dominic was 30, 35 weeks a year not at home.
Yeah.
And so therefore, they didn't see that much. Probably this is also the reason why they have such a good relation now. And for the age difference is too big. They never played in tournaments together.
Mm-hmm.
But the big problem for Moritz was that everyone compared him with Dominic. I mean, of course, the style, the shot, the technique, it looks similar because of you try to copy your brother. He played the same brands like Adidas and Babolat, a one-handed backhand. And then you have always the people saying, the younger brother, he's better, the younger brother. It's similar. I mean, for example, with Djokovic brother, everyone said, the younger brother. And there's one more younger brother, he's even more better. And also with Tsitsipas, but it's difficult for the young ones. I mean, if you have a brother which is on the top level, it's very, very difficult for them to reach also these goals. And I mean, I admire players like Zverev or Williams or different brothers, sisters, which both are, for example, in the top 100, because this is we know how difficult it is to break through top 100. And then if you have two kids which are top 100, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's hard enough getting one person in the top 100, let alone two. But it's also a little bit interesting because like the contrast between it. And I think also to kind of build on your point, like that constant comparison, it's and a lot of like media pressure. There's certain expectations that players put on themselves or other people put on them. I think something a little bit similar is like Verdasco and Nadal. Everybody was like Verdasco was in the shadow of him, or like Wawrinka and Federer, or even like Dimitrov and Federer. Everybody says he's like baby fed. I see how it could be quite annoying and distracting for it. And it's actually funny you bring up like it's like very similar technique, Moritz and Dominic. When I came to Vienna and I was playing with the guys over there, I'm not playing at like a professional level, and like my tennis career has transitioned into a little bit more recreational leisure, still trying to compete at a decent level. But one thing Rico was always telling me is like everything needs to be higher and like following through and everything. And when he was telling me this, it's a little bit different from my normal technique. But I'm like, okay, for him to stop constantly critiquing every single shot that I do, let me just hit my forehand like Thiem, like Dominic. And then he started being quiet. I don't have a one-handed backhand. So I was like, I was trying to figure it out on that side. But you know
I think it's important. It's important when you have academy, or when you develop young players, that you have to follow some key points, some steps, let's say a red line, because you need also for your coaches, and also for the younger players, you have to give them a clear definition of your philosophy, because then you can spread it out, because we all know that every tennis player is individual. Every professional tennis player, there are different ways to become successful, but also from early ages on, when you develop players, you have to give them the important key points. Okay, for example, the grips, the preparation, the finishing, stuff like this. And whatever they are doing later, if they develop, they develop their individual game style. But I have to say, I'm not a friend of, let's say, everyone should play how he wants. Our philosophy is to work very, very strict in technical parts, and this is our philosophy. This is also what I was doing. I was 20 years in another academy where I also got this philosophy, and of course everyone adapts it a little bit and changes a little bit, because you also need to put your personal let's say philosophy into the development. But overall, it's completely clear which key points we follow.
Which that actually segues greatly into my next question: is how do you see tennis evolving in the future, and how does that influence your coaching now?
The basic things that didn't change the last 30 years, I would say. I mean, since the time they came to more topspin, the grip on the forehand changed, of course, from continental to more forehand grip, probably to more semi-western grip, but overall, I mean, the basic technical stuff didn't change. I mean, I started coaching in 92, 91, 92. And since this time, I mean, it's not changing that much. For example, if you compare to ski or whatever with this carving technique, stuff like this. But what changed a lot is the energy, the intensity, the pace of the game. But this is something what comes automatically, because when the juniors were playing slower 15, 20 years ago, going for longer rallies, then now 10, 15 years later, they play faster. This is something what is adapting year by year, and the players are adapting to this level, and they are raising automatically their level, because they're competing with the other kids. Yep. So to repeat myself, I think it's important to give the technical key points, and the rest is of course developing with the time. The sport is changing. It's much more fitness now. It's much more physio, for example. Now already younger players working with a physio. So this is a big change compared to 20 years ago. But on the other side, we can see that the players are playing now until 35, 36 without any problems. I mean, if you see, for example, Novak is already 36, Rafa is 37. So 25 years ago, they had to stop with 29, 30 years. But now, if you see Dominic now, probably the best age in tennis, because they invest so much in the regeneration, in the physiotherapy, also in the fitness, and I think this all together, this is a change which happens not from today to tomorrow. This is something what changes over the past 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm. How much do you ever bring up with like your junior players, especially the ones who are like very passionate and want to go professional, to use college tennis as a stepping stone for that? Or do you think it's more?
To be honest, I brought around, I would say, 30, 40 players on the college in the last 15, 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
A lot. I also had a player many years ago with whom I was practicing, and he was also on the college, and now he has some company which brings the players from Austria to the colleges. So I work with him together, and whenever I have some girl, some boy which is interested, I contact him, and he solves everything from the tests and from the choose of the college. But in Austria, I would say the situation is like this. When you decide to go to the college, is more or less the same when you quit your dreams to become a professional player. This is because the players which have the feeling they can make it, or they want to play on the tour, they don't go on college. So to see the college as a step, probably to prepare 3-4 more years and then go on the tour. This is in Austria. We don't have the situation yet. Probably it comes.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can explain you this quite clear. Because the really good players, the really successful players, they would never go to college.
I mean, you bring it up that like Dominic is at a very good age. And I think like most of the average age of like top 100 players is around like 27, 28 years old. If let's say you're 18-year-old player and you need to make or maybe even 17, and you need to make the decision, do I want to go pursue professional tennis or go to college? One thing that kind of comes to my mind is like, if you're 10 years, like when you're 17 years old, you're 10 years away from your peak. Like, not everybody can be like an Alcaraz or Nadal, who like from very young age can just dominate the game. And it's also, I mean, it's quite expensive to be a professional tennis player. Most of the time, especially in the beginning, like you're going around traveling to these tournaments and losing money. And even if you do win anything, it's usually not much. To kind of, college is like and the reason I say it's like a stepping stone is because like you have so many years before your peak, and there's a lot of like physical development that you need to do as well. If you have like an 18-year-old guy who's going against, let's say 25-year-old guy, like the 25-year-old guy is just going to be physically superior most times. Do you see that as a way, or is it maybe more part of the culture in Austria that there's not?
Of course, this could be a way, this could be an option, and it's a good argument what you're bringing, that to get more time to developing the game, to developing body wise, because when you start then with 23, 24, you still have 4 or 5 more years to come to the peak. But as I said, the culture in Austria yet is not to see college tennis as a step to professional tennis. It's more or less now the step to quit the dreams to play professional, and to make university, and to go into after this to start working. Like last summer, I had one player, and he made his first ATP point. So I think he had 3-4 ATP points, and the family is the father is a doctor, the mother is a lawyer, and they always forced him to finish school, stuff like this. But he was in love with tennis, and then we decided, okay, we give him a coach, a touring coach. He was traveling then for 6, 7, 8 months. He was increasing his level, amazing. He made his first ATP points, and then some guy came from the college and offered him 100% scholarship and also some money and blah blah blah. And then he had to decide what I'm doing. I'm going to become professional, or I'm going to college, and probably to fully file more the expectations from my family.
Mm-hmm.
And he decided then to go to college. Okay, and I mean, I'm in contact with him, and he's happy. He liked it. He's super happy with the decision. So this is okay for me, But I think every player, every person has to decide it also for him.
Mm-hmm.
But my personal thinking is that I would never recommend a very good player, very good junior, to go to college. This is my opinion. But uh, for Austrian players, not for American players. For American players, it's different because probably they have a better serve, a better treatment, a better coaching on the colleges. But for Austrians, if you have a very good player, I think it's better to continue working individual and to trying become professional from this side.
Mm-hmm. So time is running out. I have one last question for you. It's kind of like a two-part. What was your what was your favorite part about touring with a professional tennis player, and what's your least favorite part?
I mean, I was more or less visiting all tournaments. I visited all slams. I think to be so close with other players, to be so close with the whole tournament, to be, for example, at the slams in the players area in the locker, to see how the players are preparing for the match. For example, when
Mm-hmm.
Dominic was playing final against Rafa in Paris, to see Rafa 2 hours before the match, 1 hour before the match, 2 minutes before the match. I think these are amazing experiences, and this is something what I would never miss.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, about the worth things, I think a tennis player and also the coaches, they cannot complain about anything because they got treated like no one else, because they have super hotels, they have super facilities, they have shuttle service. Sometimes they flying private, they flying business class, so they can choose the best restaurants. Whenever they have some wishes, everyone tries to fully file these wishes, and so of course they have to deliver on court, and this is very, very tough, because to deliver in front of 23,000 people in Arthur Ashe can be very, very tough. But the life beside tennis off court, I think they cannot complain, because they do what they love, they do what they want, they get everything. And this is something what is for the probably top 50 players, top 100 players. And when you step back to challenger level or to future level, of course, then it's a bit different. But 2 weeks ago, I was in Turkey for two futures, and what the treatment of the player, the possibility, the practice courts is really good compared to 20, 25 years ago. I mean, the money they had to pay for the flights or for the hotel is okay, and this is a 4-star hotel, and the situation also for them is, I would say, quite good, and they also cannot complain. About what they can complain is probably about the points and the prize money, because this is tough. Because if you win the tournament, even you go home with a minus. But about the quality of the hotels, of the shuttle service, whatever is good, and so in total, I would say to play tennis, to try to become a professional player is such a nice job, or is such a good possibility, which. Every junior who has this dream, I would try to support him and give him all possibilities that his dreams come true. And this is how I see this. And this is also with this passion I go to work every day.
Mm-hmm. That's very inspiring words from you. And really working hard. And as you know, as you said it, like, you know, the passion to go day in, day out for the last 20 something years is really is something we need. I think we need more people who are just like unconditionally, you know, passionate for the sport and really trying to make an impact. And even if it's an impact, you know, on your own kids, trying to give them those opportunities, but to extend that into, you know, the next generation of Austrian players, has very big impact and a very positive impact as well, on your community, but the tennis community altogether. That wraps it up for this episode. Thank you again for taking the time. It was a little bit.
Thanks a lot.
Huge pleasure, and it was a huge honor to have you know, somebody with so much influence hop onto my podcast. It's not something I expected 6 months ago when I started. So it was really cool and really insightful and inspiring stuff to hear from you.
Nice to meet you. All the best.